Thank you very much. Thank you. So in wrapping up, what more can be done, and then we'll just move all the way down here. Thank you, Mr. Onofoko.
I think for me, where we can go from here, or what we can add, or what they can do better. I think power has been said by all. I think power has become an issue. But power is also not an issue, because if you hear every major player, they all have their own power plant. We've just invested also in additional 10 megawatts of power on gas. And I'm sure everybody here has so many investment on gas power. And now, but for a business to actually grow within any community, you actually need to actually try and see how you can reduce capital costs. Now, capital cost in Nigeria is high because certain costs are added that's not really supposed to be part of the cost, which is infrastructural cost. Power, road, water, those are infrastructural costs. They're normally not the standard investment cost. Now, how do we encourage people to want to invest? Those three need to be watered down, or the costs need to be watered down. And that means either I cluster power, and that is all being said now, especially in government. Now, but I think the difference there is that Ogun State is the biggest industrial zone and has the potential to be the #1 in not only Nigeria, in West Africa and the rest. But to do that, it also needs to break the barriers of this power infrastructure issues. Now, my own suggestion is, I'm happy to hear Lafarge has going to 300 plus. I'm happy to hear Flour Mills has. Now, the guarantee, I can tell you for a fact, and they would admit to me, majority of them are not using the full power at any point in time. Now, that means they've got excess capacity. Now, what do I do with some excess capacity? I can sell the excess capacity. I can use it as a cluster around me to create more businesses that use that power. Now, we need to move away from and decentralize this power use. If I am next door to you, I don't have to invest in the same power that you have. I can share the power. Now, the problem we're having is the regulations in that area are so tough on the federal side that the state needs to break it down. Because I did know even Ogun State tried doing its own distribution. But it's so difficult. We're moving from monopolies of government to private sector monopoly, and then regulating private sector monopoly. It doesn't work. Now, you need to deregulate, which we have. Then our state needs to make sure that this power can be shared. So if I've got 10 megawatts and I'm actually only using 5 megawatts, and the next 2-3 industries need just 2 megawatts, let them be able to come to the guy with the excess power to utilize, rather than invest again in additional power loss. You have environmental effect of all this. So you can break down infrastructural costs by sharing those key major investment costs with clusters. It makes it cheaper. So I can go from a 10 billion investment, that 2 billion of that is power, to 8 billion investment of 500 million additional cluster. You've broken down the cost. Yeah. So it's about, investment is not only about entertaining people or bringing them in, it's also trying to bring down the cost of entry, the cost of startup. Even for the SME, they might only need 500 kV.
Yeah,
but because you've got this cluster, you can sell it to the others.
Thank you so much. And that's a brilliant one in terms of trying to see some shared services which the government can actually drive. And I think that's an interesting point. Zadigunwa, and then John. Yes. We've got to keep it short because the compares, the MC is looking at me from the corner there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, the main areas have already been touched upon. For us, really what I'd ask for more is a gas pipeline, because currently right now we don't have a gas pipeline, so the cost of energy is high. You have to have compressed gas, and naturally you'll understand that's expensive. So the assistance we would appreciate is if we can have some sort of assistance to get a gas pipeline put in the Jabu-Osasa access. That would be excellent, Your Excellency. Thank you.
Okay, John, yeah.
Well, I think that following the previous two comments, I mean, gas would be excellent, and working in clusters, I think, is a very important thing. we must focus on things. We have a lot of homegrown industries that are here. We should be asking Unilever what could be made in Ogun State that's being imported. We should be asking flour mills the same thing. What businesses can we build around the businesses that exist and use those clusters to develop further things? Because there's a lot of economic growth and activity that can be, you have to build it around spheres. And I think we have very good infrastructure. So there's a lot of focus and seeing what we can do to grow more. And perhaps some metrics for the state government people. How many jobs have we created? What's our GDP growth through investment? A lot of metrics to really drive job creation and GDP growth.
Thank you. Mr. Dada.
As chairman of the Nigerian Association of Small-Scale Industrialists, we are more focused on the value chain creation and sustenance for the benefit of our members, because we believe that is where we find most of our members operating. Both that's when we're talking to majors like this, both forward and backward. And in doing that, we have decided to go the way of capacity building and skill acquisition for our members. Why do we have to do that? We need to boost their knowledge of global trends and adapt for them to adopt global trends, not just because we want them to operate in the international market, to gain access into the international market, but for the benefit of the domestic market. I'm sure of one thing, Leventis will not see bad pork in the market in Nigeria come to Nigeria buy just because they have to buy it in Nigeria. But getting our members to adopt those global trends in production, in manufacturing, even in retail and wholesales matters a lot to us. And that is where we call on the government and even on the majors to come in to help see how we can introduce capacity development programs, skill acquisition programs for our members, especially in Ogun State. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yo.
Okay. I tend to look at logistics in three chunks: the logistics of inputs, logistics of consumption, and the logistics of disposal. Now, I think the inputs and consumption bit, we have tended to focus on a lot as business. The logistics of disposal in Nigeria needs more work. And you see the environment and you can tell. We all grew up thinking about the concept of you throw something away. I think as adults, we now realize there is no away. So you have to think very carefully and deliberately about how you protect the environment from all the commercial input that comes from manufacturing, etc. Last year, in 2015, for the very first time in our history, we had zero waste to landfill. We cut our water consumption by 7%, cut our energy consumption by 10%. I think that what we can do, not just as Unilever, but the state can help in this, is more collaborative discussion with the private sector about what are we going to do around the logistics of disposal, not just so that we can get more profitable because we're using less energy and less water and less materials, but so that we also protect the physical environment in which people have to operate and people have to live. And I think there's an opportunity. If we are collaborative, we do it in the right context, a mixture of our own responsibility as private sector, the right legislation and right incentive, we should be able to deal with this. When we started and said zero waste to landfill, it seemed impossible. There were challenges, there were things that we learned, but we learned major things. And now globally as Unilever, we've made a big commitment which says that by 2020, using 2010 as our base, we would have halved our environmental impact. So significantly decoupling growth from environmental impacts. I think that is an area that Ogun State can, because you're already on that trajectory, pick and drive even further to differentiate itself. And that's the extra bit that I would add to the agenda.
Thank you very, very much. We'll give the team a round of applause. We've touched on a whole bunch of stuff. I've got words that I've circled here: sustainability, an enduring business model, having global values, integrating business with life itself. A lot of the companies here have got a long history. focusing on green philosophy. Peju talked about tourism, which was interesting. The government is friendly, is accessible. The governor himself is accessible. There's a very customer relationship management focus of the state. There's peace, there's security. There seems to be sincerity of actions, there's unity of purpose. There's a strong value chain creation that's happening. A lot of emphasis on transportation. Progress is being made in the states. Yes, we need to deal with power and look at a sharing model. The same thing about providing gas to drive power. Skill acquisition is so key, capacity building. And then environmental sensitivity and discussing and working with government and so many, many more things. Ladies and gentlemen, do help me to thank all members of our panel, Mr. Sarkov, Mr. Dada, Mrs. Adibajo, John Kumantaros, Mr. Adigunwa, and Mr. Onofoko. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sirs. Amar? All our investors have been successful in Ogun State, and they're still looking at expanding in Ogun State. Ogun State, under a dynamic leader, is truly an economic powerhouse. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, can we give them another round of applause?
Just immediately after this photo session, we'll be inviting the Secretary to the State Government, Barrister Taiwo Adeoluwa, to just show a bit of appreciation. Honorable Minister for Agriculture, please, you can join them for this photo session. Thank you so much.